Hey folks, welcome back to the Leeds View podcast, a slightly new format moving forward. The pod will be a video format and audio moving forward. It just allows us to get the full podcast onto all of the audio platforms. If you're listening on audio, welcome to the channel. There'll be some details in your audio description. If you're on YouTube, all of the affiliates and everything you can use to support the channel will be down below in the video. I'm delighted to be joined by Gerry McNamee and Paul Brooker from the Leeds Therapy. Their social media accounts on the viewers one are down below in the description if you want to get in touch with the lads on X. And if you want to leave a comment on the video, if you want to hit a like, subscribe, and if you're listening on audios, give us a review as well. That will help the channel. But we will start off tonight because there's a lot of stuff to get stuck into after another away defeat, another away performance we've seen before. We'll start off, just check in. Gerry, how are you? How are things? Did you go?
I did. I was in corporate yesterday.
Oh,
I nearly
fancy.
threw me prawn sandwiches at Jack Harrison at the end. It's yeah, it was a good day. Forest is I was saying to you, a proper old stadium and good atmosphere. Um, and we just turned up with the same dross that we've been doing the last few weeks. We're just repeating ourselves. We got a lot of possession. We're passing, going forward. Brendan falls over, lose the ball, 2 shots on target, and losing our men. What ball watching? All the things. And then mad substitutions and doesn't make any sense. Well, it does. It's a pattern, and I'm afraid it's one that I've come to the conclusion that I think time is up, and we need to change something. I don't see Daniel Farke changing. He doesn't. It's the same stuff we watch. It works against Oxford, Cardiff, maybe Swansea in the Championship, and to a certain extent this season. But we've tailed off, and I'm not angry. I'm just a bit sad. And I'm watching other teams. I'm thinking, why can't we be fast like that? Why can't we break like that? And so as you said to me early in the week, or you might have used it on the pod last week, we had the slowest team in build up, and it really shows. I watched the game again when I came home yesterday, and just to see from when you're not watching, to just see the ball go in the net, and it's just poor. And there's only one way we're going unless we change something. And that's the way I feel. But sandwiches were great. Nice Black Forest gatto, which is always good. Yeah.
Always nice. Nice cup of tea. Black Forest gatto takes the edge
Yeah.
off, especially coming into the winter months as well.
Oh,
Although there's
yeah.
no need for blankets on the laps against Nottingham Forest this time. The last time we went to the City Ground, Paul, it was Jesse Marsh's final game as Leeds manager. Might be a pattern there emerging as well. But the players were blankets on laps and a little bit soft. The performance yesterday was probably a little bit soft in itself. But what were your thoughts initially, and how are you, mate?
I'm good. I'm well. I'm all right. It's only football. Whatever. Do you know what I mean? Yay. Beautiful. Any other adjectives I want to throw in there? Nouns or verbs, just to make sentences. No, it's depressing because it means that the writing is the writing's on the wall. It absolutely is on the wall. The performance wasn't good enough. They don't seem to be the energy's gone out of the team altogether. They don't have an identity. I look at the way that they play. I look at the way that they set up, and there isn't an identity there whatsoever at all. With last season, we had a bit of an identity. We were all out attacking style, gung ho. Yes, I know we're not going to do that this season, but we had an identity that we could latch onto. Under Bielsa, we had an identity as well. We knew what the identity was. We would outwork everybody.
Had an identity under Jesse as well. Just wasn't one that we wanted.
Yeah, it was celebrate moments. So it was turgid yesterday. It was depressing. It was very much what you would expect it to be. It was an unforgivable performance where you have to look at the players for culpability. You have to look at the board for culpability. You certainly have to look at Farke for culpability in terms of the way that he's setting the team up and the stubbornness. We need answers on, the lesser spotted Willie Nonto. Where is he? We need answers on if Dan James has been training for 2 weeks. Why isn't he starting? The Aronson thing, give up, just give up, absolutely give up. Somebody tried to put out at lunchtime at halftime, that he'd done more ground duels, won more ground duels than anybody else in the first half. Couldn't care less. If you could win all of your ground duels in the 6-yard box, it doesn't mean that you're advancing the ball like we need it to be advanced. What else can I say to just absolutely piss on everybody's chips?
Any positives?
Nemecha's goal was brilliant. I thought the way that he took it and without even thinking about it, absolutely just pinged it into the bottom corner. Brilliant finish. Not a lot of players for me would do a finish like that, maybe. And I'm not saying he's in the same league, but I just mean in terms of quickness of thought, Haaland would do a fast snapshot like that. I just don't. Just brilliant. That was absolutely excellent. I'm sick of seeing the same goals getting scored against us. People ghosting in, midfielders not watching. I'm tired of the ball watching. I'm tired of being gaslit by a manager that tells us that we're too emotional as a fan base. That upsets me now.
Are we not supposed to be emotional as a fan base? Isn't that not what the ownership keep talking about with the expansion of Ellen Road and keeping that aggressive, emotional atmosphere within the ground? Are we being asked not to be emotional, fans? I mean, we're all passionate about this football club and our as fans. And I think no matter where you've been over the last couple of months, whether you love Daniel Farke, whether you don't like Daniel Farke, people express their fandom and their love for this club in very different ways, but they all do it in some form of a vocal manner. Are we not supposed to be like that? Are we supposed to just accept what we see and never question things?
I think over the past couple of weeks, I think maybe the pressure has started to tell a little bit with the don't analyse comment after Brighton, and this one, the emotional comment as well. It's what I like to say, the ever fabled "don't look here, look over here" kind of thing, and that is for me, it's not right. I was very much leaning to I've talked about it on this podcast numerous amount of times of where I am on the ladder of things, and I'm fully 100%. It needs changing. It needs changing. The players aren't. I'm not saying the players are having a bit of a revolt, but the players clearly are lacking in confidence. I don't think they believe in the system that they're being told to play. I think that's being borne out on the pitch. I think something isn't right because the way we were playing from the start, Everton, Newcastle, as examples, has just completely disappeared. The application has just fallen off of a cliff, and I think we're right to criticise that. And yes, you can criticise the team, you can criticise Farke, you can also criticise the board, but he was very political in his statement before the season started, a week before the transfer window closed, in saying, I wanted another attacker. I need another attacker. So he's got the reason why I've gotten the sack is because of this. And my rebuttal to that would be, well, maybe you need to be a little bit more
defensive minded and stop conceding 3 goals every away game.
If we're bringing in defenders to make us Big Bastard FC, as a lot of people like to call us, then we should really be leaning into that, and we're not. What we're kind of leaning into is the tiki-taka stuff and playing out from the back. That doesn't work for us. And then trying to play in a low block, it doesn't work for us. We need to be on it and on them. When we put pressure on, that's when we're better. It's proven over the 2 games that we played at the start of the season, and it's just not happening. And that's just how I feel about it at the moment. Yeah,
not just the first 2 games of the season. There was a lot of game against Wolves until the last half an hour. First half against Fulham, first half against Spurs, first half against West Ham. I think the issue that I've noticed, and I'll clarify my stance on this as well, is that there is a pattern to Leeds' second half. This is another second half where Leeds came out and didn't turn up. The changes that we made a difference, but unfortunately Nottingham Forest made their changes first and they made a quicker difference. And there's a reactive nature to that, and it's a pattern that's been building up. People are not just saying it for the last 2 years about this. I have been preaching on this channel for 2.5 years about tempo, to the fact that it's a joke. But now we're looking in the Premier League, and not only are Leeds the slowest moving side from back to front in the division, they're slowest by some margin as well. And again, to the recruitment, the fact that we've brought in players to be more direct, to be on the front foot, to be aggressive, to more runners has been pointed out, not just by us, but by journalists, by statisticians, by people who've watched the game. And then we don't do that. Well, then you're going to be in trouble. As was said today by Graham Smith, the meshing of the recruitment versus the playing style no longer meshes. They're not the same. What they were brought in for is not what they're doing. And there's a clear breakdown for me there as well. I'm not quite at the pull the plug and set fire to everything, but I'm 1 game away from it. I think if we see a similar performance against Aston Villa, and I'll clarify what I mean by that. The title of this podcast will likely be Something Needs to Change. And that's where I am. I said it yesterday in the review. For me, we need to see a change. There needs to be either a change in formation, a change in style, a change in tempo, a change in personnel. Ethan Ampadu, 3 games in a row, has had someone run past him into the penalty area and score. Something has to change. So if those things aren't changed, we continue to move forward the exact same way of approaching a game, then all of a sudden it becomes the manager's problem because it's him that's doing that. He's picking that side. He's continuing with the style. He's continuing with the formation. And if he continues to do that, then he becomes the problem. And at that point, if you're not willing to change something to give this side a chance of staying in the Premier League, because I, for one, I'm not willing to throw the towel in after 11 games and say we're relegated. We can still fight for this. And Leeds United are a club that have always fought. And that should be continued. That as fans, we shouldn't have apathy. We should have desire for this team to improve. You bring a new manager in the morning, the first thing he's going to do is identify the problems in the side. That's conceding goals. What's the first thing we do? Shore up the defense, stop conceding goals. Maybe it's 3 at the back. I don't know. That's a manager's decision. People will say, well, who can you possibly bring in? Use your imagination. That's what I'd say. Be creative. There's lots of them. Thiago Motta, Cesc Fabregas, Gallardo, top of my head, there's 3. There's lots of names being thrown around today as well. So there's tons of managers out there that can do that. The point being, not necessarily who comes in, but somebody that will come in will immediately look to change how we're set up. The ideal scenario is Daniel Farke just changes how we're set up. And if he changes that, then there's no need to change the manager and we continue to move forward as a club. But if he's not willing to do that, then you've got to start asking more harder questions of him. I'm going, well, why aren't you willing to change this? It isn't working anymore. And that's where I sit on this. But Gerry, just said it there in that little monologue.
Yeah.
It's the second half that we've seen before from Leeds United. Come out in the second half and just do nothing for a while. Opposition make their changes. They have an impact. Then we make our changes.
We even seen it against West Ham when we first half we could have been out of sight and we sat back. Luckily they got a late goal, but that could have been disastrous. I think your graphic last week, it stuck in my mind, showing how we started the season and the way we were pressing and the way we play against Newcastle. You're coming on that way from that game going, competitive was the word. Competitive was the word. And we've regressed from that. And we talk about, he's got to change, but to be honest, I don't think he will. I mean, the only changes he ever seems to make is injuries or a little tweak, but not to the system. And we saw it to that extent in the Championship, although we could have got away with that. So
70 minutes.
I don't see him changing. You see it too many times, mixed up. You think, okay, and then it's if we're still losing, throw 6 attackers on, and it's chaos theory. There needs to be surprised. And when I was speaking, I was with the Forest fans yesterday, and they were asking me about it, and I sort of set the game out to them. I said, Brendan Harrison will fall over a lot. Yes, he proved me wrong by that assist, but he will challenge. But he won the ball a couple of times. Nico Williams just went, and he was gone. We will pass the ball around a lot without achieving it, and we won't have many shots in goal. And 70 minutes, make sub, and then maybe a later sub if we're chasing the game. And I really do not see him changing anything. And calling us emotional, I think in this podcast, and a lot of the others who do, I think we're quite sensible. If we lose, we'll criticise, and if we win, we're delighted and we'll praise. Not over the top either way. And the people that I speak to more and more, the sensible ones, especially yesterday, they're going, nothing's changing. And 11 games in, of course, it's not lost. But if you go another 5 or 6, and before you know it, it's January, and before you know who you're going to attract, before you know which players can get in, who's going to come for a relegation battle. And we learned that lesson before. So, and these guys are businessmen, and they know, we can't afford to drop down the Championship. And he's got to change. If he comes out next week, like we talked about 3-5-2 a few weeks ago, and I thought, great. Yeah, get Pirro. We got to get Pirro in somewhere. We don't know if he's a Premier League player. He's not really had a chance, but don't stick him in number 10. Don't put him on his own up front. Have him playing off someone. I saw Okafor yesterday, and he gets in great position, beats me. The other players are miles away from him. When Goodinson made that brilliant run, you think, where is everybody? And as you said, the ball watching, we even back as far as the Arsenal game, we had 7 players in the 6-yard box, and they still managed to score. It happened last week. Yesterday, when Gibbs White went in for that header, there was 2 players free, and we had about 6 players around, and they're looking more, and it keeps splitting. West Ham split the defence, and we talk about Ampadu, great player, he's been fantastic, but I think he needs a kick in the backside. He probably needs dropping because he's not doing his job. And you know, and I look at Longstaff, brilliant, and I think he still is, but he's regressed a bit. And Stack's not the player we thought he was. But what's the role? And you know, should Tanaka come in? All these things. But if we're playing next game and Farke is still there, it'll probably be the same team. You know, Brendan Harrison be in there, Dan James be on the bench, and Willie might be on the bench. And really got to shake it up and do something. Stick Harry Graham for a game. Take him off for 10 minutes. Excite the fans. But I'm not excited, and I'm just going thinking same old. And I don't know. You guys know more about tactics than me, but I'm seeing it myself. That's how bad I'm seeing it. And I'm sort of reactionary rather than tactical. But when I watched the game again, and it just surprised me. Rodon to Bijol, to Stack into midfield, lose it, back to the keeper, blah blah blah. That's one of the keeper yesterday. I thought he could have held on for the first goal, maybe hold it, but the reaction save as well was excellent. I'm not sure he's the problem as such. I think you know he's been left exposed. Maybe should have done, but that reaction save, and I think he's looking more like keeper. And yeah, I don't think he's the problem. A lot of the players are. You think he's doing all right, but it's got to be the system's got to be better, and the body language and you know everything else suggests there's a lot of unhappy people in there. And you know what football's like. We all play it. We've all been. If the players aren't happy and there's bitchiness going on, well, we don't know, but. You sort of get you watch enough football over the years and think, yeah, you can see it sometimes. And I'm watching jealously at other Premier League teams and watch Sunderland and watch Brentford and I thought, why can't we move like that? Why can't we pass like that? Why can't we have more people in the box? And it's
because we don't get bullied in the transfer market like
yeah. Well, he's got to get over that. He's got Barker. Yeah, okay, you didn't get the player, so fine. You didn't like it. Get over it. You're a coach. That's what you're getting paid for. Coach it. Come up with a strategy. Do something.
Pick up points away from home. Pick up a point. Stop conceding goals. Set out to be more defensive. If you have to shithouse your way to a 0-0, then shithouse your way to a 0-0. I again,
remember George Graham
comment about when we win a game where people are talking about Europe, if we lose a game, we're talking about relegation. I was like, I don't think that's true. I really don't. I'm starting to get to the point where that's starting to feel like a line that's being thrown out because I think most of us predicted 17th at the start of the season, you know, but I think we thought, but we'll scrap for that. And I just don't think we're seeing a scrap anymore. I think we're looking at, again, it's not just us saying this. So it's not just, you know, city YouTubers making a comment about this. There's people who know the game and they're saying, I watched Sky Sports yesterday, match of the day. It's the same goal being conceded. There's repetition. There are clear patterns that are there. And if we know, to Gerry's point, Paul, that it'll go Perry, Rodon, Bijol, Rodon, Ampadu, Bogle, back to Rodon, back to Ampadu, back to Bijol, long ball forward, lose possession, counter-attack. And we see that happening all the time. There are football clubs with tons of statisticians and football analysts who are digesting these games and will look at this and go, yeah, Leeds are very, very easy to play against because the football is predictable. It's slow, and it has been slow for a while, not just this year. We can get behind the ball quickly. We can just hold our shape and they'll pass around us left to right slowly. We can still move and then we'll win the ball back and we'll break quickly and we'll score. And that tends to be happening. And then when you look at, we do like stats on this channel. I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, but I'll give you some scary ones. Thanks to LUFC data for these as well, by the way. Leeds have been relegated in 4 of the 6 seasons where they've had 11 points or less from their opening 11 games. Sorry about that. Leeds, slowest side from back to front so far in the division this season. And then we'll talk about Jack Harrison. We'll get into him in more detail. But Jack Harrison yesterday, when he came on the 82nd minute, Jack lost all 4 of his duels, dribbled past twice, failed in his only take-on attempt, and conceded a penalty in the 88th minute. I mean, I don't think a cameo gets any worse than that. But again, not to lay it on Jack. Jack is one of a number of players who right now is being asked to do jobs that he probably isn't good at, coming on at left back. For example, when you've got a James Justin sitting on the bench who can play left back. Yeah. It's a bizarre change. And there's times where you kind of look at it and go, Daniel, just do the obvious thing. You know, and then there's other times you want them to do the less obvious thing, like maybe shake it up a little bit in the starting lineup, throw a few surprises in there. We're predicting the lineups pretty accurately every single week. So something does need to change, Paul. And I think that's where the fan base are. I don't think we're necessarily overly emotional. I think we're the right level of emotional for what's going on right now. And you want that in this fan base because that's what makes Leeds special. I don't think we're looking for European football. But I'm hoping that we avoid relegation. So you take all that into consideration. You see, Daniel, if you are listening to the fan base, change something. Give us some hope that this will change, or it could get very scary in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you look at the lineup that we've got, or the lineup of games that we've got coming over the next, 5 or 6 games that we've got is horrific in terms of who
Chelsea, Man City, Liverpool.
Yeah, I mean, I said to you earlier on, didn't I? Did everybody watch what Doku did to Bradley yesterday? It was frightening what he did. Absolutely scary.
The guy had a brilliant game against Real Madrid as well.
Yeah,
the other night.
exactly. Yeah. And it just, I understand having a belief in your system and your method and your tactics, but clearly it's not working. I don't think 4-3-3 is working for us for a number of reasons. One of the main reasons why I don't think it's working very well for us is because we more often than not have 3 defensive midfielders in that front three, which then means that you're realistically relying on your 2 fullbacks more often than not to try and progress the ball forward. Don't get me wrong. For me, Okafor is going to be a key for us later on into the season if we're gonna do well and he stays fit. But to have Stack isn't a left-sided midfield player. Let's have that right. Stack is a central defensive midfield player. He is a player that sits in Ampadu's position for me.
Yeah.
I don't think Ampadu has covered himself in a lot of glory recently over the last couple of games, and like you said, I'm firmly in belief you shouldn't just a place shouldn't just be a given because you're a captain. It should be on performances, and if you're not performing, then you're not in the
Dan
team.
James, Paul, wasn't in the side because of performances. Apparently, he hasn't played in 8 weeks.
Right,
9 weeks.
Right, I'm gonna. That's rubbish. That's just it's just defending not going in because for whatever reason, and I'll quite happily say it. I don't know what dossier Aronson has on Farke, but he's got some form of dossier on Farke, as far as I'm concerned. Because if you've got a fit Daniel James, you play him. Because look at the first couple of games of the season, it was in terms of who we had out. You know, it was Nonto and James, pretty much, wasn't it? That's what we had out. And then what would happen later on in the game? That's when Aronson would come on. Because he's there, he can rat around. People are tired. He can get on the ball. He can thing it. Yeah. We bring Harrison on for exactly the same reason.
And he did well.
I understand about injuries and stuff and things like that. I get that. That's fine. But when you've got the tools in your hand, use them. And he's not. You know, he could move to a 3-4-3 system. He could move back to 4-2-3-1 again if he wanted to, just to try and make that work. But the biggest problem that we've got is we don't have a creative outlet. And I said to you, my biggest annoyance that I've seen is Pirro not being played. I'm not saying that he's going to be the be-all and end-all, that he's going to be the answer to the question. However, in a 3-5-2, he would be brilliant. He would be absolutely brilliant. Him and Nemecha would be brilliant. It fits. And it's not that we're trying to go, you know, Farke, you're wrong, but it's this system isn't working for us. Teams have worked it out. We don't have the level of player to be able to play a 4-3-3 formation. We just don't. And that's been borne out in the last few games. Six goals we've conceded in 2 games. We've conceded 11 in 5. 11 goals we've shipped in 5. So we're conceding on average 2 goals every single game at the moment.
There's people will say, and it will be in the comments, it's the goalkeeper. Change the goalkeeper. Darlow was doing fine. We were shipping as many goals. 2 per game. At that point, 3 in the last 2 for Leeds. But I think the second goal, my issue, Lucas Perry palms the ball out, but I'm not sure what else he's supposed to do in that situation. But Bar blocked the ball, and he does. I think the bigger problem is there's a central defensive midfielder from Nottingham Forest standing completely unmarked on the penalty spot, where Leeds player who's supposed to mark him is not even in the penalty area, and Sean Longstaff is standing completely free. That's the problem. The keeper needs someone to help him with the second ball. He makes fantastic save, double save just before that as well. Catches the balls and needs to catch. The next one will be Pascal Stroke for Yacobiol.
That's not quite the way that you described Longstaff to me earlier on today. So
no man's land.
No, you used a different adjective, but we'll leave that one there.
Somebody was thumb in a position he shouldn't have been in. But yeah, the other one as well. The other one as well will be Pascal Stroke. Pascal Stroke, since he come out of the team, we were shipping goals when Pascal Struijk was inside as well. I saw Oscar Mario make some very good points. Pascal Struijk wasn't good enough in the team until he came out of the side, and then Jacobial isn't good enough, and it has to be Pascal Struijk again. Out Tanaka wasn't good enough to be in the side, and then he was taken out of the side, and Stack wasn't good enough, and the Snack goes back in. He's not good enough. You're talking about symptoms of a problem. There's a bigger problem there. All of these players are symptoms of a problem. The problem is, again, whatever way we're set up, whatever style we're trying to play, it isn't working, and it doesn't suit the strengths of the players, and it's highlighting more of their weaknesses, and we need to hide those weaknesses by playing a different style of football. Gerry, the changes in the comments after the game, just to focus on them, because I don't want to run too long tonight, but Sean Dyche makes 3 changes on the 59th minute. Mari Hutchinson's one of the ones that comes on, and straight away he's a problem. Immediately he's a problem. Now they've got strength and depth, but they were missing 7 players, and they did play 2 days earlier. So same with Brighton, they were missing 7 players, played 2 days earlier. So there's patterns there as well. But they have an immediate impact on the game. All of a sudden, where it's a bit scrappy, it swings heavily back in Nottingham Forest's favour. They get the goal. 74 minutes, Leeds make their changes. Then Leeds finally changed to a 3-5-2 formation, but only at that point. And then in the 82nd minute, Jack Harrison's brought on for Gabby Goodmunson, who's still probably one of our better players, even though the cross comes in on his side from Hutchison. Farker doesn't mention the statistics after the game, because I think we've all talked about them last week enough that you can have 50% possession, but if it's between your back 2 centre backs, then what's the point in having the possession? There's no purpose to that possession. After the game, Daniel Farker blamed the referee for the free kick. Now, I thought it was a pretty soft enough free kick. It didn't bother me, the free kick, if that's being honest about it, because between where the free kick was and where the goal goes in, there's an entire half of the pitch and time to adapt to that, and we don't. Blames bad defending, which is completely valid. 100% that's valid, but it always seems to be that somebody else is to blame. I've yet to see Daniel say I got it wrong today. That's on me. And again, the emotional comments. But in terms of the decisions and changing the in-game management versus the comments after the game, and I'll back what Paul said earlier on. The 49ers are 100% culpable for not finishing this jigsaw, not giving Daniel the better players that he needed to be fully competitive. They'd given plenty of defenders in the central defensive midfielder, so the conceding goals thing isn't. Sorry, he doesn't get off the hook with that one. He should be doing better with the defense. The players have got huge culpability in doing the basics of their job better, tracking your runners. We're weeks into this now, talking about track your runner, know where your marker is, put a tackle in, be more physical, too soft at times. And then there's Daniel Farke, because repeat tactics, same players, same systems, blah, 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 over and over and over again. Every single one of them is culpable, but ultimately the buck will stop with Daniel Farke. The comments after the game, some of them irked me a little bit. I would like to see a bit of responsibility, especially after that performance, and just say, probably didn't get it right today, but it was Willie Gnonto has another 2 weeks before we thought we'd give him more time. Yeah. You don't have that time to give him. Dan James wasn't in on performance. What performances? The ones at the start of the season when he came in with no preseason and then got injured. And there's a disjointedness to the comments being made after the game. It's starting to feel a bit panicky and pointing the finger at anybody but where it needs to be pointed.
Yeah, I think it's a bit defensive, and without some being emotional in that word and shouting at the fans, he's basically saying, well, I'm doing this and I'm doing that. What's your problem? Yeah. And I mean, Dan James, he did make a difference. He had our second shot on target. It was a good effort as well. And he was busy. He looked like he was going to do stuff. Yeah, you're right. I don't think players are ever 100% fit, are they? In any, there's always knocks down, but you have someone on the bench like Willie, give him 10 minutes. It may be vital if you're still chasing the game and you're still level. And
sorry, Gerry, especially if Dominic Calvert-Lewin wasn't 100% fit, which he said he wasn't, but Willie Gnonto was.
Yeah. Why? Yeah, you're right. Why put him on? Yeah, because if he's not fit, I thought that was the whole point. You're not going to play unfit players. I mean, actually, look, in fairness, he took his chance. He nearly scored that goal last week against Brighton as well. But you can't keep saying the analysis and stats. I think we had more possession yesterday, and probably at one stage in the Brighton game we were 80% possession. Doesn't mean anything. As you say, it's the heat map shows it's going across the back four. You have to attack in the other half. There's no point. At some stage you got to have someone, but we're missing that number 10. We always know that we're missing another attacking player. But adapt. You've got tools there. You've got other players. change it around, try something different. But you know, and I think his comments are when you lose one or and you win another one, yeah, that's all right. But I think now he's got to be he's on very thin ground, and the fans are picking up a lot of this. And as you say, you got to take responsibility. You just say, us and the team, we didn't get it right today. We got to do better. Well, it doesn't mean much, but at least it gives the right gives the right mood. And he's got to say, we got to do better. We look at changing things and stuff. But it won't be. And you think some players have to be fitter and more ready than others. You know, but I don't want to pick on Ampadu because he's been brilliant for us. But it seems to be when he's injured, he comes straight back in very quick, even when obviously he's not fully fit. I think there was a game, was it early this season or last season? Obviously not fully fit, and it showed. Whereas, and other players, you know, got to try. We got a guy we've never even seen play, Barno. No, what's he like? What does he do? Is he
injured?
Do you throw him in? Is he? Yeah, he's going to be one of the. He's going to be one of these footnotes that played one game for Leeds because it sounds like he wants out as well. And you know, you got to use all your resources. And the press conferences, they're all the same. The after match, I probably don't listen to them. And as I say, I'm listening to sensible fans, and they're a bit fed up with it as well. I was talking to a couple of the guys who were in the away end yesterday. I said, "What was the mood?" And they said it was a mixture of apathy, bit of anger, and a bit of what's going on. What we're actually saying. And the away fans, they know the stuff. Yeah, they like a good away day. But these guys know. They know when someone's tried hard, and they know when it's just not been our day. But they can see patterns as well, and I think that's the worry. So I think talk's cheap, and we need to see action. But as I said before, I just don't see anything radical happening if Daniel's in charge next game, and you know. Brendan will play, and it'll be the same setup. I don't like picking on Brendan. I'm willing him to do well. I thought he
tried yesterday. Brilliant. I'll give Brendan one thing. He worked his ass off again yesterday, and where there were players that maybe aren't working hard enough. At least he was doing the minimum, which is working his ass off.
Early on, he's doing all right, but as I say, Nico Williams just thought, he's got the ball. Yeah,
more physical.
Brush you off, Brendan, and unfortunately, that's just he's just. And a great point you made earlier, him coming on late in games, and Jack Harrison. We saw Jack Harrison coming on late on in the early home games, and he made that difference. He's not a fullback. So James Justin, he's not a fullback. If you want a fullback who's going to attack, that's too much to ask, even. I think from a player in that sort of game, bring on someone like that. Bring on another winger and a fullback if you're going to change it that way, or push the Bogle and Goodmund up as well. Yeah, I know Bogle's coming in for a bit of stick. I don't know what you think of his performance. I think like a lot of players he's dropped off, but somebody said he's the Sheffield United Bogle, but I don't think that's fair. I think he like the rest of them, he's dropped off. He's like a lot of them, like long stacked. They all dropped off performance, and you got to question, is that the coaching and as you said, do they believe in what they're being asked to do, and they must see it. So I think we've made our decision, haven't we?
I think we're very close to it, if not we're already there. Paul, last bit before we get to wrap up tonight. What needs to change? What needs to change?
The manager.
Assume the manager doesn't change. What needs to change?
System. He needs to look at doing a 3-4-3 or a 3-5-2.
That's all you want to see.
Yeah, I want to see a system change. If he goes through, he could even do 4-2-3-1 again, which would mean that he could have he could have Ampadu and Stack as the holding midfielders. He could do that again.
But play Stack as the 10.
He probably would. But it's just I'm trying to think of ways for us to. But that for me, it's the 3-5-2 for me it's just the glaringly obvious choice that we need to make. But like Gerry says, I don't think he will. I think he's far too wedded to his to the system that he's got currently at this moment in time. And I think he's just too stubborn to change it, because it would mean that he has to admit that he was wrong. And when if he changed it, everybody would go, do you know what? Fair play. You've looked at the situation. Took you a little while to get there, but you looked at the situation and you've changed it. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least show that you're trying to do something, because it can't always be, if Plan A doesn't work, chuck on 6 attackers. It can't. That's not how it can keep being. Unfortunately,
It worked against Norwich away the first seasons, never worked since.
nope.
No.
So that's where I'm. That's where I'm at. It's a manager system.
Gerry, what about you? What change do you want to see?
Yeah, same. I can't argue with that. Fresh legs in the team. Just change it around a bit as well. If you and the systems, sometimes you got to freshen it up. Bring someone in from the cold. I don't know who's out there in the cold, but yeah, give Brendan a rest. Bring Dan James in. New different system. Be better, players. Just it's up to you as well. You got to be better. You got to do the basics. Don't be ball watching stuff like that. It's probably one result will probably change our attitudes. If we go out and beat Villa, do something a bit different. We're happy then, and all of a sudden you're on a bit of momentum. And then if you do well, you look at these other games, you think, well, I might get something off Chelsea. Let's see what we can do. At Palace or home to Palace or away to Brentford. You've got something. But from what I see, the setup, the body language, everything else, the general atmosphere around, I don't see us getting a point till January. And I hate saying that, but it feels like that at the moment, and a bit sad. Really. But yeah, as Paul said, all that Paul said, basically, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's easy.
There is still time, and that's what I'll say. I mean, we need to be very, very careful as a fan base, to use that word again, to not let apathy come in and just accept our fate. We've never been that fan base. No. And I don't think we should ever get to the stage of, well, who else is there? Or what else is there? There is always something else. There is always someone else. This is a very stable club. And Daniel Farke deserves credit where it's due for stabilizing this club when he first came in, for getting us to where we got to. And he deserves a huge amount of credit for that. There is always a moment in time with a manager at every single club where you get to a point where you're like, is this as far as it goes? And I think we're getting very close to that, unless Daniel can turn this around and do something different coming out of this. And again, to the title of the podcast tonight, something has to change. And if it doesn't change on the pitch, it will likely change off the pitch. And as again has been said around the space today, there is an inevitability to what is coming if something doesn't change on the pitch, because we cannot accept our fate of just going back down to the Championship. We are currently not in the relegation zone. That is still a positive. There is still time between now and a January transfer window for if somebody else was to come in to assess the squad, to sell players that they don't want or won't use and reinvest that and to get a couple in. There's still a chance. There are still poor sides in this division. We've got to start being better. Daniel Farke made a point of 3 of our last 4 games were away from home. Paul, you made a very good point of pointing out that 3 of those teams were below us at that point. The next lot won't be. So something radical needs to change heading into those games. And I, for one, am not willing, I keep using this term, to roll over and get my belly tickled just yet. Come near my belly, I'll bite you. And I want to see Leeds start biting people and being a bit more aggressive in everything that they do. And I still think there is that chance there. Players showed it in moments in this season. They've shown that, specifically in first halves of games. Second half has been a concerning pattern in nearly every single game. You look at the momentum graph the second half against West Ham. Look at the momentum graphs on SofaScore for the bulk of most of our second halves this season. There was a consistent pattern there that needs to be addressed. Leeds, it cannot just be a 45-minute side. We're not giving ourselves the best chance we have to get anything out of games. So that's what I want to see change. And I think something does need to change. And we are aware that Daniel Farke does keep an eye on social media as well. He makes comments in press conferences that would allude to him being aware of what's being said around the space. So change something, Daniel. If you do still have a job in 2 weeks' time, which is very, very possible, and we go into the Aston Villa game, make sure we're ready to go with a 3-5-2, and players that are going there going to give their absolute 100% best are in that side. And if you have to make sacrifices, now is the time to do it, because there is no more time after this. So we'll leave it there, folks. You can check out the lads' details down below. Gerry McNamee over on X at Gerry122. Gerry, you do another podcast as well. Make sure I plug that.
We do Talking Leeds. Yeah, I do an after-match reaction. So yeah, it's not been fun. It was great last season, but yeah, we do that one. So yeah, it's always good fun.
And Niall is gigging in Leeds soon, isn't he?
Yeah, he's in November the 28th in the Porto. Yeah. and he's touring around at the minute. He's in Birmingham, Manchester, various filming. He's just been here today and he's gone again, back and forward to Ireland. Yeah, I can't keep up with him. Yeah, I'm over in Ireland at the weekend to watch us beat Portugal, and if we win, Ireland win 4 of their last 2 games, we qualify for the World Cup. No, I'm in Budapest. And I'm in Budapest, looking forward to seeing the Danube, but not the team. We've got a player I had to Google. Who's Kevin O'Toole?
Called up MLS Kevin player, yeah, New York City. Yeah,
never heard of him, but good luck to him, and good luck to him. Yeah. We'll have a good time, and see a new stadium. So yeah, look forward to that.
Yeah, well, that's something as well. Paul, Leeds Therapy, details down below. Paul, anything this week going out on your channel?
Yeah, just the usual stuff. Obviously, there's my game reaction that went up yesterday, which has done very well. Thank you for the support on that, as ever. That's really nice to see. There will be stuff coming up throughout the week. I'm going to do. You've alluded to it. There was something that I was going to look at. I was and just go into a bit more detail. I was looking at the momentum for Leeds games so far this season, and just pull out that trend, and just to see where we are, and just a little bit more deep dive into that, because I like to look at all that. Because looking at the statistics is the thing that just soothes me a little bit, compared to just sitting here with just a big rage on. I said rage on, by the way, for everybody. Yeah. This time around, just
week,
isn't there? There is, yeah. There's got to be.
It's not as bad as biting bellies, really, is it? But,
well, yeah. I mean, I find that what I need to do is I need to get it to a stage where I can get my mind to penetrate deeply into the situation that I'm feeling.
We went there. Yeah.
Right. We'll wrap it up there, folks. Massive thanks as always for supporting the channel. I always say agree or disagree. Everyone's entitled to their opinion, express it the right way. We'll have a chat and a discussion about it. I'm back tomorrow for the Leeds news over on YouTube. It will be available on all the audios as well. Outside that, enjoy the rest of your evening. Talk to you soon. See you later. Bye.